The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.
There he is, Mark Ingram, the UAB Athletic Director, for another UAB Director's Chair, a great podcast we do right here for UAB fans. And really, this is a show for UAB fans, obviously, and we like that, but it's also for college football fans, period, in college sports, period. Yep. That's why a lot of people are like, why don't you have Trent Dilfer on? And we've had him on the show. We've had Andy Kennedy on, and we'll have them on again. But I really like to get a little deeper into college sports and talk about all the things that are affecting college football, particularly right now because of this lawsuit and everything else. And you're the man that can clear a lot of those things up. A little strange time right now, kind of quiet down there, is it?
Yeah, we just had graduations this past weekend, which is a lot of fun. It's always great to see young people walking across the stage, getting their degree. You can see it all over their faces and their families. A lot of these guys and girls, they probably had some doubt when they went to college. Could I really do this? This place is big. I'm away from home. All these smart people. I'm not as smart as everybody. You just have all these natural fears when you go off to school. And
do you remember when you went to college? How it felt? I was thinking the same thing. There's a reason why children can fall downstairs and live. When their parents do it, they die. Someone falls down a flight of stairs and you're 60 years old, you're dead meat. But a 3-year-old falls down the stairs, they're resilient. They're still forming their muscles. They're forming their brains when they're in college. And I go back and think about when I went to Xavier, it scared the hell out of me. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue. I didn't even know the curriculum. I didn't know what I was reading. I was too busy trying to work to make money. Just talk a little bit about that because I got a friend of mine who's got a son who just went to UTC, Tennessee, and he got back and he went for 1 year and he's like, Mr. Curry he goes, I'm not going back, and he goes, I haven't told my dad yet. He goes, I thought I was going to enjoy the situation, and he goes, it's really hard.
Yeah,
it's
hard.
Like, yeah.
It is hard.
And he goes, I'm going to come back and take some time off, and I said, that's good. Come back and take fall off and stretch your legs a little bit, but I mean, it's just. We should be very, very happy when our children obviously get into a situation like that for college, and it comes a little more easier than it does for other kids.
Yeah, it's tough. And college isn't for everybody, but it's that moment where you measure your resilience. You got to dig deep, kind of refuse to lose. You've got to say, okay, I've got to figure this out. But it's this, it's this transformational time for all young people where, hey, I've got to figure out, oh, it's time for lunch. I guess I need to feed myself, And there's a cafeteria. It's not hard. I have dirty clothes. I guess I got to do my laundry. How do I do my laundry? This is a learning time for a lot of things. And time management, time management, in high school, again, so much of that is dictated for you. Every class is lined up, and if you're not there, first of all, the principal or some person from the school is calling home and notifying your family, hey, Tony didn't show up for school today. And so that's not the way it works in college, right?
Yeah.
So, and then, lunch is when lunch is, and you either took your lunch or you're buying your lunch at school, and it's all structured. You have practice after school. You're already there. You go home, you have dinner, you do your homework because mom and dad are there to say, hey, Tony, did you do your homework? And all that stuff. And then in college, while it's not a huge difference, it's enough of a difference that some people really struggle with it. And so graduation is this wonderful time to see, it's like you made it.
Yeah.
Not just the academic stuff, but you made it. And I think a lot of people have doubts when they go to college. I certainly did, and wasn't sure that it was something that I was capable of. I was just so intimidated by the whole thing initially. But once you get into it, you get a rhythm, you figure it out, figure out how to survive, and it all works,
I still have dreams. I just had one a couple nights ago. I still have dreams that I've enrolled in a college, and college started like 3 months ago, and I haven't been to my first class. I'm walking through the college. And I've had this dream like 100 times. You know, the ones where your teeth are falling out of your face, and there's got to be
Yeah,
some meaning behind it. But I'm in college, and I'm going to my class the first time, and there's all these people, and I feel like I'm so far behind. And everyone's like, "Where the hell have you been?" And I'm like,
yeah,
I didn't even know college started back in August." They're like, "Dude, we've been
yeah.
here since August." And then I'm sitting down, and I'm so far behind. I don't have any books. I don't know who the teacher is. They're wondering who I am. It's just bizarre. It really is. And to have a child, and obviously I've got one that's finishing up his sophomore year, and I thought for sure my kid was going to want to stay home. I thought for sure he's going to be UAB. I mean, he's a huge UAB fan. You know who I'm talking about, Santo, and
Yeah.
he decided, man, I want to get out of here and go do my own thing, and he really embraced it. And you're like, whew. And then as a parent, it makes you feel good that, hey, listen, he knew how to do laundry and he knows how to feed
Right.
himself before, and he's doing a pretty good job at that too. Yeah, they'll come back sometime in June, I guess. You got how many students do you have down there for summer classes?
Yeah, so for athletics, we'll have football, men's, women's basketball, and then kind of a smattering of other athletes here that are close to graduating, or uh, maybe their major is one that, there's this one class that conflicts with practice schedule in the fall or spring, and they need to get it in for graduation, so they'll take that class now. But football, men's, women's basketball will all be here, and volleyball will be here. So those are all, their fall sports.
Mhm.
So this is like their preseason conditioning period that is the most important, so that when the season gets here, they're in the most physical, ready shape that they can be.
There you go. UABsports.com is the website. You can find out everything that is UAB in the green and gold. And we'll talk some more college sports here. I think it's really interesting. Every time I always pull up college sports and I pull up news, and it usually brings up the latest of what's going on in all of college sports. And so I kind of like to give you go around the horn a little bit, and this house versus thing always pops up, and because
Yeah,
it's fluid, the fluidity of the case continues. And now I see that sources for the White House, President Trump is planning to create a commission on college sports to address issues ailing the industry. Let me start with the roster limit concerns. We talked about that on some previous shows. It appears that they have met in the middle there, and they have figured out that the weird thing that is if a player is not retained by their current school, and you can explain exactly how this is going to work because kids are going to be grandfathered in. But if they're not retained by their current school, they can still maintain their grandfather cause, and so they can go to another school but not be counted on their roster. Correct?
right, right.
Do
Yeah,
I get that right?
so the initial, I think what we talked about before is I'm not sure why the roster limits have anything to do with this
I don't either.
settlement, but they do. And
Yeah.
so they created all these new roster limits for every single sport. And so we've been operating over the last year like, hey, we've got to cut down to a certain number. Um,
Why
by
is it
this,
such a big deal? That was the sticking point. Why are roster limits so important to this? Do you know?
I don't know why it's a part of it at all, but it is. And so,
And
so
it's a
we've been,
lot in college football. It's a lot of what is it from 120 to 105 or something like that?
yeah, most people carry between 120 and maybe even 130, and now the new number is 105. And so that's everybody. That's
Wow.
scholarship players at 85 plus another 20 walk-ons. And if you wanted to, and some people are doing this, you can actually put all 105 on scholarship. Now, I don't know why you would do that. When frankly 85 is more than you need. You need about 60,
Hmm.
65 is what you need on scholarship. But nonetheless, 105 is the football number. So we've all been working towards being at 105 by this coming fall since last year.
Hmm.
So at the end of the fall season, all of our fall sports started telling kids, hey, I love you, but, if they had to, Clemson even went so far as to honor Dabo Sweeney. I thought this was a lovely gesture. He went so far as to recognize a bunch of kids on senior day like they are seniors because he
Yep.
was sadly having to move them on. So, what the settlement is now saying is that, and you're using this term grandfather, is they're saying, okay, if the settlement is the reason you were making those adjustments, you can leave them on your roster until they exhaust their eligibility, or they can transfer somewhere else. And as you said, not count against their roster limit until they exhaust their eligibility. That is not required. It is permitted, not required. And again, that's if you made the change due to the house settlement. The difference here, Tony, is our coaches have to have these tough conversations every single semester with some number of kids, which is basically, Tony, we love having you on the team. You're a great kid and you work really hard, but we just don't think that you're ready for this level. If you want to play, we would recommend that you transfer to somewhere where where you could get on the field. And that's a tough conversation to have. Some coaches are more direct and I would say better at it than others. Some really struggle with that conversation where that's just not pleasant. They recruited a kid and they like the kid and they just go, "Hey man, this is just not the right place for you. I thought it was. We love you, but." And so if you had that conversation, it's different than, "Hey, this house settlement thing and um I have to cut you because." But nonetheless, you can still, my point is you can still adjust your roster how you want it to be.
Will there be schools that don't have walk-ons anymore? Just they're just going to give every kid a scholarship. I mean, if you got some schools already paying players $20,000 a piece just to be in college,
Right.
there going to be some that there'll be no scholarship limits, right? So that you can sign everybody up if you want.
Yeah, but it would stop at 105. And what the rule is also saying is, like in football, if you were on scholarship, it was a full. Now they're saying you can make them partials.
Which is means what?
Like I could give you books or I could give you tuition only, but no housing or meals.
Wow, that sounds
So
confusing.
you can blend it however you want, and there will be some schools that do that.
Yeah. Attorney Steve Berman, co-lead counsel in the massive pending class action suit, is targeted years of antitrust violations. He says while Nick Saban was a coach, and of course Nick Saban's name is popping up a lot as a commissioner of this potential Donald Trump thing. Of course, Nick Saban was actually at the commencement the other night when Donald Trump spoke at the Alabama thing, and he spoke. Saban initially opposed NIL payments to athletes, pushing to address restrictions, red tape through national legislation to add some sort of control. Berman said during his time scrutinizing the athletic pay structure, he made tens of millions of dollars and was previously the highest paid coach in college ball. Coach Saban and Trump's 11th hour talks of executive orders and other meddling are just more unneeded self involvement. College athletes are spearheading historic changes and benefiting massively from NIL deals. They don't need this unmerited interference from a coach only seeking to protect the system that made him tens of millions of dollars.
Right.
Your thoughts?
Well, I disagree with the article, and I agree with Coach Saban. I think that in college, the talent is the coach. In pros, the talent is the players. And when people disagree with that, you can point to hundreds of thousands of data points that would prove what I'm saying to be true. So I don't know enough of the players on Alabama's rosters to 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 go into great depth, but you think about the quarterbacks that they've had. John Parker Wilson was really good, but when he left, did the Alabama fans leave? No, they did not. AJ McCarron was a really good quarterback. When he left, did he leave? Did the fans leave? No, they did not. What about uh, um, uh, well, I mean, you get into Tua and
Mm,
and
Jalen, yeah.
get into all the anyway, you get all these great players. My point is the Alabama fans stayed because they love their school and they have faith in the coach. They have faith in the coach to go identify great talent, recruit that great talent, train that great talent, and perform and produce results on the field. And you could say that with countless other places. Mike Krzyzewski at Duke was the same way. When Bobby Hurley and Grant Hill and all those guys, Christian Laettner, when they left, Cherokee Parks and Trajan Langdon, and you go on and on through Zion Williamson, the fans stayed because they had faith in the coach. That's why you paid the talent, which was the coach. But now you flip that and look at the pros. When LeBron James left the Cleveland Cavaliers, what happened?
Yeah.
When Tom Brady left the New England Patriots, what
Good
happened?
point. A good point.
When
Yeah.
when when Brady left the Patriots, Bill Belichick, who Everybody agrees.
Mhm.
Everybody who's ever coached anything agrees. Bill Belichick is one of the greatest coaches in the history of sports, and he got fired.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no doubt.
So that's the difference, and I just think that I think it may require presidential intervention because between state laws and the self-interest of certain senators, whether it be this bipartisan challenge to try to get something done, somebody's going to have to step in and go, look, this is what we're doing. Boom, to
what
stamp the
what
state down and say this is what it is.
while there are roster limits to a football team, are there any types of limits on coaches? Can you have as many coaches
Well,
you
there's
want? I
limits
mean,
on how many coaches you can have.
is that going to change at all?
Not as part of this.
Yeah. Is there anything else part of this that's going to change that we would notice? Or is this pretty much? I mean, I know this was the sticking point. The roster thing was the last thing that was really kind of the sticking point. They
Yeah,
really to start.
it's really compensating athletes. And this whole thing is two part. One is back pay for 10 years of athletes from the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So the NCAA is withholding monies from every school to pay that off, and then which includes us at over $400,000 annually for 10 years that we're losing in revenue. And then there's the ability to pay forward your existing athletes. So that's the two part, and then there's this roster limit piece, which, like I said, I'm not sure why the two are combined, but
It,
they
is the reason it's retroactive, and again, I don't understand the 10 years. I could get 5 because
yeah.
the thing's been in court for 3 or 4 or 5 years already. I understand that, I guess. I don't understand why it would go back 10 years because that could really break some colleges down. But is there a reason why we are retroactive? I mean, we finally got to this point where the kids got what they want. Why can't we just start fresh and do it right now? Why do we have to go back 10 years? Because this seems like it's weeding out even more smaller schools to me, and it just
Yeah.
stinks. It just smells
Well, the
wrong.
money, the back pay, Tony, for 10 years only goes to kids who played in the Power Four.
Yeah,
And so what you're saying is it's because they didn't have use of their name, image, and likeness. Well, neither did kids at UAB.
yeah.
So why aren't they getting any of the money? It's the whole thing is ridiculous in my opinion. It's crazy. It's hard to make sense of it other than to say at some point it's a settlement and that's what they just settled on.
Yeah. One of the things, he's the UAB athletic director, by the way. Mark Ingham joins us every single week and very grateful for him and his time. We know he's super busy down there. And of course, we love having UAB on any time and getting ready for college football season right around the corner. I cannot believe it's going to be here. Of course, Media Day is coming up as well.
Yeah.
There are some great traditions in college football. And one of those traditions happens at Va Tech. I knew about it, but I had never seen it, and I would love to see it live. It's one of those bucket list kind of things that I'd like to see live, and that is Enter Sandman. They've been doing it
Yeah.
since 2000. Well, do you know who played in Blacksburg at their stadium last Wednesday night? It
Yeah.
was Metallica. The
Yeah.
first time, and Metallica was well aware of the fact that this was a tradition that they've been doing at Vautech since 2000, and the video is just it's crazy, man. I mean,
Great.
and it's just fantastic. And I mean, it's so good that at least once or twice a year, if you're lucky enough to see a Vautech football game on television, they'll normally, it's like the dotting of the I in Ohio State. They'll usually impose that in on the broadcast. The broadcast must include the walk up. If you will, music, which is just super, super cool because it takes a couple minutes, and when you take a couple minutes of airtime or whatever, you're taking money out of the
Yeah.
the network's pockets. I wanted to ask you, since we're talking about classic rock too, what other great sports moments, if you will, have affected you that you really love? That you think are super cool. I know Alabama has they do Thunderstruck, and it's cool. But I mean, a lot of people use Thunderstruck when they come in, but they're trying to own it. I've been to Clemson. I've been to several of the four. They have this thing at the beginning of the fourth quarter, which is really cool. That Clemson does. I don't know if they own that idea. I know UAB does the thunderclap thing, which is super cool. But are there any other traditions? And it doesn't have to be college football that you just really dig. It could be Midnight Madness. I mean,
Yeah.
give me some traditions that you really
Oh,
dig.
listen, there's a ton of great ones. I mean, the thing is, the thing is about the Virginia Tech one, and these are the best ones that just sort of happen. They just, they started playing it because it was like, oh, we need a song. What about this song? There's nothing about the words in the song that connect to Virginia Tech or Blacksburg. There's nothing about it. Somebody just said, I don't know, this kind of sounds ominous and, intimidating. And when we run out, let's try this.
Yeah.
And the fan base kind of took to it. And you can't ever assure that they will or they won't. We started playing a song at the start of our second half, or sorry, right before tip off in basketball. We started a song this year that people started clapping to the beat, and it may take off. We'll see. We're going to keep working at that. But like Iowa does this great thing where they wave to the kids at Children's Hospital who can
Mm-hmm.
watch the game in
Yep.
the stadium. That's really cool. I love what we do with Smile a Mile and Children's Harbor, where we bring the kids in and wear their names on the back of our shirts. Those are fun things. But I think it's cool. Like like I think at Cubs games where people wear a lot of men go to the games and they take their shirts off, which I just think is kind of hilarious. But how you can watch the game from the rooftops and the buildings across the street from Wrigley. Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff like that.
My dad used to go down to Old Crosley Field, and there were holes in the fence in the outfield. And he used to go down there with his buddies. He'd skip school, and his dad didn't know it. They lived in Norwood on the west side of Cincinnati, the home of the white belt. That's what the kids down there wore, white belts and white shoes, man.
How
And
about that?
he still had white belts and white shoes. But he used to run down to the area I know as Riverfront, and they used to go down there, and he'd look through the fence for 3 or 4 innings, and then climb in a window at school by
Yeah.
time to get
You know,
class up.
San Francisco, a lot of people will be in like kayaks out in the
Mhm.
bay. So if you hit a home run and they're all
Govy
out
Bay, yeah.
there kayaking around trying to grab the ball when it floats up to the top to try to scoop up the home run ball. Tennessee has this whole deal where you can go to games by water and they have all these boats that sort of tie onto each other, which they call themselves the Vol Navy, which is very unique to them on the south side of their stadium, which is really interesting. So
Is that where Calhoun's is and all that stuff down there by the
yeah,
river?
yeah,
Yeah.
there's some great restaurants. We're going to be going up there. We played Tennessee game 4 this year,
Yeah.
so hoping a lot of our fans will go.
I'm in. I'll be
It's
there.
it's a good event.
Now, if you got some good traditions, I'd love to hear them. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Send those in to us. And we need to do a show of traditions. We made us do because I'm sure there's some that we
Yeah,
don't know about.
sure.
And you want to be part of all those things. The Midnight Madness, I was thinking of the one, and I forget what school it is. What's the school where they stay standing up until they score the first point?
Well, a lot of people do that, and
Yeah.
what's funny? We used to do that, and Andy Kennedy doesn't like it.
Really? Why's
So
that?
he's like, I just think there's too much pressure. He goes, sometimes there will be fouls early in the game. The amount of actual minutes, there may only be 3 or 4 minutes of game time. We haven't made a shot yet. He goes, but it might be like 10, 12 minutes of actual time. He's like, just sit down. He's like, I actually think it creates pressure. Yeah, he told
Yeah.
me. So I stopped standing up.
Wow. Well, we can always bring it back. We just
Now
that's
here's a
that's
classic
done.
rock one that you'll like, and I think we've talked about maybe before. Florida, and I'm not certain of this, but I think that UAB was the first time. I'm almost certain. We played football in 2017. We played at the University of Florida.
Hmm.
And I remember at the start of the fourth quarter, their PA announcer, came on and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the city of Gainesville lost one of its favorite sons last week, blah, blah, blah. Tom Petty was,"
Hmm.
and they played There Ain't No Easy Way Out,
Yep.
like in honor of Tom Petty. And there was this moment where I'm sure they never expected it, but the whole crowd is, "Hey, baby,
Hmm.
there ain't no easy way." They're all singing it. And so now they play it at the start of the fourth quarter. In that third, fourth quarter break, they play it every game.
Yep. I won't back
I think
down.
we were the first game that they did that.
I think you may be right. I won't back down. That was a great song from that album. We played that during Desert Storm. We actually had something with our radio station where we were out at the Hoover Met, and we had a bunch. We had like 15,000 fans show up with boards up of a flag, and we were going to flip it around and say thank you for your support, whatever. And that song played over and over and over again because it was talking about course, the dictator over there not backing down the entire time. But yeah, there are so many, and like you said, man, it's amazing. This goes so true for so many things in life that when you try to create tradition, you can't do it. But when it just happens, it's a beautiful thing.
It's cool.
But the best thing that's ever happened to Radio Me, or when we were just joshing around and something falls and goes, oh, we should do that again tomorrow. Next thing you know, you've got something really, really special. But when you sit there and try to create something, it's just not the same. So
yeah, when you try to artificially create it, it doesn't happen as well as when you play a song at the right time, the right moment, and people catch on, and it becomes your thing.
You're right. All right, Mark, thank you so much, man. UABsports.com. Thank you so much for all your time. And we'll talk some more classic rock. If you got some ideas, last year we did like our best bass players, guitar players. We got some great lists. You can go back and listen to all those shows on our Tony Curry Radio Podcast Network. They're all up there. We've gotten over 1,500 podcasts, so plenty of stuff to go listen to. And of course, we'll have some new stuff coming up here in the next few weeks. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.